fatter than Homer Simpson, lamer than Miles Peterson, and more boring than your great Aunt Maribel. Only those words can fit Berserkules, the Berserk Herc. Oh yeah! Hi, I'm Berserkules, the Berserk Herc, and today I'll be reviewing Lois Lane number 14, story number 1, called 3 Nights in the Fortress of Solitude. Is this gonna get dirty? Isn't Lois spending 3 nights at Superman's place a bit risque and inappropriate for the 1960s? Anyway, the story starts off with a splash page that depicts Lois being changed by a ray coming from a jewel in Superman's Fortress of Solitude. Help! Superman! That jewel's strange ray turned me into a plant! Find me an antidote and I promise to never snoop around again! So, Superman's Fortress of Solitude is basically a death trap? Okay. And now to the actual story as, one morning, as Superman visits Lois, she gets ready to take pictures in his Fortress of Solitude, and Superman then flies her, bundled in his cape, to its secret Arctic location. Wow, this reminds me of that Cheech and Chong album cover. Hey, Soup, I didn't know you smoked super joints. Cool, dude. And as she makes a bizarre trip, Lois thinks to herself, Superman is my dream man. But he'll never marry me. If he did, his criminal enemies could seek revenge against him by threatening his wife, me. Lois, criminals are already trying to kill you because you're Superman's friend. So that can't be the answer. I think Superman's just afraid a bunch of stray cats will make loud noises as they chase birds. Later, near the North Pole, is Superman Santa? Jeepers! Well, everyone does seem to like to dress up as him. Anyway, as Superman unlocks the door to his Fortress of Solitude, Lois thinks about what life would be like married to Superman, as Superman thinks about how the key to his Fortress of Solitude is disguised as an airplane marker. Wow, Soup never thinks, but when he does, it's explanation. Thanks, Soup. If you didn't narrate to yourself, we wouldn't know what's going on half the time. I'm reviewing a panel from a comic. So, Superman starts to show Lois his Fortress of Solitude that includes giant statues of his dead parents, a zoo full of creatures, one of which Superman wrestles for exercise. I wonder what the animal rights folks would have to say about that. And a weird alien pet that runs loose and is angered by the color yellow. Wow, Soup, you sure like weird things. And isn't it dangerous? I mean, what if Lois was wearing yellow? Heck, you're always wearing yellow. Is that weird tentacle ant thing like your Kato fawn or something? Do you keep him as a pet to keep you mentally sharp and ready for attacks? Jeepers! And aren't you worried the yellow on the statues will have him attacking them? Or at least submissively urinating on them? Anyway, okay, the alien has floating heart shapes hovering above him. I don't know if that's a cheesy use of visualizing thoughts, or if that's one of the alien's actual abilities. By the way, I shit heart shapes. So then Superman goes on to show Lois some space trophies he has, like a giant Venus butterfly that sings like a canary, a Martian dancing plant, and a giant glass coin from a distant planet full of Cyclopses. And of course, as Lois touches the glass coin, she is hit by some weird ray that could possibly have a deadly effect on her. Thanks, Superman. You're super responsible. Sorry, Lois. I forgot to cover my illusion jewel. Is this your super wits at work again? And then Superman shows Lois one of his Superman robots. See, Lois? He has a robot guard that looks identical to him. So if you suspect Clark Kent is Superman and then see them together, it don't mean shit! And then Superman shows Lois 2 giant telescopes. Wow, 3 pages into the story, and all that's happened is we've got a tour into Superman's Fortress of Solitude. Jeepers, with stories like these, who needs enemies? Anyway, he shows Lois 2 giant telescopes, one a standard telescope, the other, careful Lois, the star rays gathered by one of my super telescopes are deadly to anyone but me. Seriously? Just sitting there as a death spot that anyone walking under it would die from? Jeepers! This should be called Superman's Fortress of Death! Anyway, so the giant Venus butterfly trophy flies under the telescope and, dies? But actually, the butterfly doesn't die. It just could die if it touches sunlight in the next 72 hours. How is that deadly? Did you just lie? Or are you just super confused? Are you using your super wits again? Anyway, oh hey, the Venus butterfly then does fly into the sunlight and die, as Superman narrates to Lois what is happening. Wow, Superman really cares for his pets, watching them die and all. So Superman just let his pet get killed, doesn't? Okay, wow. Super compassion! Anyway, Sup goes off to check his space radio and leaves the always scheming Lois Lane alone, who then, surprisingly, looks through the telescope with the quote-unquote deadly rays and is affected just like the butterfly. Superman then rushes back to her shop and quickly closes all windows in his fortress of death so as not to kill Lois, and Lois acts like it was all an accident, but blatantly it was not. And Superman tells Lois she'll have to stay for 3 days in his fortress of premarital sex. It worked. After I prove this can be a safe home for me, Superman won't have any more excuses to avoid our wedding. I didn't know you were dating. Or engaged. And if you do get married, don't forget to cat-proof your fortress home. So with the plot for this story set, finally after all these pages, Superman gets ready to leave to patrol Metropolis and leaves Lois in a room full of Kryptonian household items, which he doesn't bother to explain to her what they are or how they work. Gee, I wonder how this will turn out. So, alone in the Fortress of Solitude, Lois Lane visits the Lois Lane room. Seriously? Superman has a whole display room of Lois Lane stuff? Pictures, statues, her favorite flowers? Jeepers! Superman makes Batman's crime-solving machines look goofy and useless. Who needs a machine to literally read between the lines of a document when you could have statues and pictures of a girl you know? So, is having a full room shrine to a girl super creepy, or just the right amount of creepy? Or can Superman just get away with super creepy behavior? Anyway, that night, Lois goes to the Krypton household room to sleep, even though the Lois Lane room would be a better idea, and is levitated by the floating anti-gravity bed of Krypton. Or dumb idea for short. Seriously, why would you make a bed that levitates? Is floating in your sleep so good, it's worth falling to your death over? And of course, then a gust of air from the ventilation system sends the bed flying through the fortress of dangerous shit, and then she crashes down in front of the Superman robot and ends up falling in his lap as the robot's hand goes wild from being bumped and goes up and down repetitively, spanking Lois's butt. What the fuck? Is Lois getting spanked by a robotic Superman while wearing a fancy outfit? Holy fucking awesome! Was this like some sort of turn-on for the writer? Oh, I want to see Lois in heels and a fancy dress getting spanked by Superman. Cause that's one specific turn-on! Jeepers! How many pictures of Superman spanking Lois do you think exist? Lots! Cause I made a bunch. Oh, and here's one of Superman spanking Jimmy Olsen. You know, for the gays. And why is Lois in a fancy outfit? Oh, because they're Kryptonian pajamas. Dang, Krypton must have been a great place to live, with women all sleeping in evening gowns and heels. Anyway, so the next morning, with her butt super spanked, Lois eats breakfast standing up as she chats with the real Superman. Sup then leaves to do stuff, probably dragging a bunch of girls on surfboards or a quiet drive down a country road, leaving Lois again alone. And as the day goes on, the heating system in Superman's fortress of poor maintenance breaks, and it gets very cold, causing Lois to have to take a jacket off her life-size statue. Let's all hope that's not a life-size sex doll. And since it's yellow, Superman's super dumb pet sees it and gets mad, attacking Lois, who then discards the jacket and is, cuddled by the silliest pet ever for warmth. Is this the birth of tentacle porn? So animals could die from the cold in Superman's base, and he wouldn't even know to care? Superman's fortress of death to animals. And now with the bout of cold over, Lois decides to snoop in Superman's closet and finds where he stashed his super Christmas gifts. There's one for Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, Clark Kent, and seeing the Clark Kent one, Lois Lane realizes Superman can't be Clark Kent. If I ever thought that Clark Kent was secretly Superman, this proves otherwise. Yeah, because it's physically impossible for Superman to buy his alter ego a gift to throw people off. Lois Lane, your investigative and reporter skills are amazing. Lee bad! Oh, and there's a blank box. I wonder who that's for. No one? I'll just add my name to it. There. Now I'll be getting a gift from Superman this year. And then Lois finds 2 boxes with LL written on them, and assumes that one is for her, and the other is for Lana Lang, and opens them up to see what they got. Pictures of Superman? Is that what Superman gives to everyone? What the fuck? Super cheapest gift ever! I better take my name off that box. I don't want some dude giving me a signed picture of himself. So, anyway, one of the pictures is signed standardly, the other signed to someone who knows his secret identity, to which Lois assumes that Superman might reveal his identity to one of them at Christmas, and worries that it might be Lana and not herself. But she is then distracted from her thoughts and worries as she reads a book about plants on Krypton, including a plant that could turn people into plants. And as she reads this, Lois starts to turn into a plant. Holy shit! If I keep reading this comic, am I going to turn into Lois? How the fuck does a book turn you into what you're reading? Ah! Oh wait, it's not the book. It's some illusion jewel that's lying around Superman's fortress of messiness, which Superman then covers up with a tissue, thus negating its power. So with the 3 days over, even though it wasn't even 2, Superman offers to fly Lois home, and she is glad to go. And as Superman flies from his Fortress of Solitude, with his giant Lois stogie, he starts to narrate to himself about some of the fishy things that happened. It seemed fishy right from the start that Lois could look through the wrong telescope by mistake. Seemed fishy? It seemed fucking obvious to me! Fuck your super wits! After leaving the fortress, I checked back with my X-ray vision and realized the truth when I saw Lois writing in her diary. 'Cause fuck privacy. So privacy means nothing to Superman? Does he not want to marry because he's having too much fun spying on women in the shower? Heck, did he watch Lois in the shower? Or on the toilet? Anyway, Sup then goes into exposition mode, explaining all the weird happenings over the past 1 or 3 days that were actually him fucking with Lois. Is he reliving past glories? Anyway, Sup starts to tell of how he came back to his fortress of personal invasion and used his super breath to blow Lois's floating bed around, and then used the impulses of his X-ray vision to make the robot spank her butt. So Superman used a robot surrogate to spank Lois's butt? Now that's one heck of a crazy sexual encounter! So Superman's idea of teaching Lois a lesson involves him having a robot version of himself spank her bum as he secretly watches? Kinky! Super kinky! I have a new respect for Superman. Anyway, Superman continues his mental narrations as he tells himself of how he brought a giant glacier to his fortress of sexual repression and caused it to get very cold, and then of how he stuck a dangerous jewel right in front of Lois as she read. If these are the pranks he pulls as a mature adult, I wonder what he did in college or high school. Jeepers! So Superman drops off Lois at her apartment of singleness and thinks, she'll never again think of making my Fortress of Solitude into a home sweet home for us if we married. 'Cause she couldn't ever want you to build a new, safer fortress? Okay, that makes sense. And later, as Lois talks to Clark, who can't be Superman because Superman bought him a Christmas gift. Seriously, if I bought myself a Christmas gift, would I suddenly not be myself? Is that how people change their identities? Get themselves a Christmas gift? What the Santa Claus? Anyway, so I'm still puzzled over those Xmas gifts I saw Clark, to the only girl who knows my secret identity. Will Superman give that photo to me, or to Lana Lang? The answer is neither. Lois didn't know that I had 3 LL boxes and photos at the fortress. One for Lois, one for Lana, and one for Linda Lee, the other identity of Supergirl. Linda does know my secret identity. Wait, so you got your cousin Supergirl a signed picture of yourself? Which is the same gift you give to the girls you date? What the fuck? That's fucking creepy! Or is incest normal on Krypton? Is that how they evolve their super wits? So the story ends as Lois looks at a calendar and wonders who will be getting the better gift. December 1959. I guess I'll have to wait till the December 59 issue of this comic to find out. Wait, this is a January 1960 issue. What the? How am I supposed to find out? Dang it! What the fuck time? So that's it. It's now the end. See you last month.